The 6th National Council on Health took place in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital. Residents of Ogun State may not look too far now for their healthcare solutions as the state recommits itself to providing better healthcare service. At the event, the Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale, highlighted the federal government's plan to boost the skill set of health workers across the country and proffer workable solutions in healthcare delivery. The President of Nigerian Medical Association, Michael Girima, joins me from our Abuja studios, while Babatunde Ipaye, the Commissioner for Health, Ogun State, joins me in our studios here. I want to thank you both, gentlemen, for coming on State of the Nation at this time. Let me begin with you in Abuja. What's your immediate thoughts when you hear about gatherings like the one held in Ogun State, the 6th National Council on Health? Are they really proffering solutions to healthcare delivery in Nigeria, do you think?
Yeah, thank you, Gimba, and good evening, Nigerians. I think such a gathering is very important because they profile solutions and they bring suggestions from all stakeholders. Unfortunately, professional bodies are not part of the technical discussions, and we are just made as observers. But of course, such a forum, adds some, input into how health services, how healthcare should be delivered in the country.
Okay, let me just get the views of Mr. Ipaye here. Looking at this whole healthcare system that we're running in this country, because one would argue that the intent of government when it comes to the 2018 budget with regards to health and having that allocation of about 71.11 billion naira doesn't speak well at all. What do you have to say to that?
Well, thank you, Gambia. Let me start by saying that the meeting we hosted in Ogun State is actually the 60th, not the 60th.
My apologies, the 60th.
The 60th Council on Health. And the National Council on Health is the highest policy and decision-making body of health issues in Nigeria. And it is a body set up by the National Health Act. It is a meeting shared by the Honorable Minister for Health, Honorable Minister of State for Health, and the 36th Commissioner plus the Secretary of Health Services of FCT. That is the body that constitutes the council. Of course, the council is made up of the technical session, decision-making processes. The first 2 days of stay in Abeokuta was a meeting of technical experts. We had 7 technical sessions that was talking to you about integrated infrastructure upgrade for primary care delivery, which is a cornerstone for healthcare delivery in Nigeria. We're talking about the partnership for health because we now realize, based on national health accounts, that government alone cannot do it. At the best of time, government funding for it is about 24% of healthcare expenditure. We also discussed about issues around management of cancer, which are becoming an epidemic proportion in Nigeria, and of course several other issues that has to bring both global and local partners into interaction for 5 days. And so, just to answer your question directly, of course, when you look at health system funding and issues, infrastructure, we are not
major challenge.
We are not where we are supposed to be. Okay, we are part of the Abuja Declaration that says that we should dedicate about 15% of national budget to health. Nigeria has not gotten there. About 3-4 African countries have crossed that line. We are on a path to getting there. Of course, we're looking at, making primary care the cornerstone to care delivery, particularly for vulnerable Nigerians.
A lot of people argue that that is a brilliant way to go about this, but the major challenge still remains funding of primary healthcare delivery in Nigeria. Dr. Girima, that's a major concern, funding of primary healthcare in the country. How can we ensure that total success is recorded when you think about, for instance, the NHIS scheme and suggestions that should be a source of funding? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, ideally, NHIS should be a very ready source of funding to primary health care. Because in it, there is a 1% that is supposed of a consolidated revenue that's supposed to be set aside to take care of basic healthcare provision fund. And from that fund, it's a ready source of an additional fund to all these primary healthcare centers. But that has not been provided in all the budgets. I'm yet to see whether, even in 2018 budget, that provision is made. We are yet to see. I mean, the Minister of Budget and Planning made a budgetary breakdown, but we are yet to see that implemented. So the consolidated revenue, that is at least 1%, it is in that National Health Act. And that should be put aside to form what we call the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund. That has not been provided for. Apart from the fact that NHIS, as it is implemented today, only covers about 3% of the population. What we are saying is that NHIS must be mandatory. It must cover every sector, whether it is formal or informal. Once you make it mandatory, then it provides enough fund for the primary healthcare centers, in addition to the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, because out of the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, 50% is set aside for the National Health Insurance Scheme to take care of the primary healthcare centers. Then you have another percentage that is set aside to take care of the vulnerables.
Okay,
so
let me put you on hold there so I can
get
the thoughts of Mr. Ikbaye, because a lot of people have complained that the HMOs are not well linked to the NHIS scheme, and as such didn't even get paid.
Well, let me thank the president of NME, my president, because I can agree less with him. The coverage of NHIS is abysmally low for a country like Nigeria.
You said 3%.
About 3-4%. One of the strong recommendations of the last National Council, and that is why history was made in Ogun State, is that the 1% consolidation fund needs to be implemented in 2018 budget. It was actually part of the communique that was issued at the end of the council. Council invited the Chairman Senate Committee on Health, Dr. Larry Joshua. He was part of the decision-making processes, the Chairman of House of Assembly Committee, and it was so timely because, of course, the budget is being discussed at the Parliament, and these are some of the key decisions that we suggested to the federal government. That is one. On the National Health Insurance Scheme, I think beyond making it compulsory, we need to unbundle the NHIS. We also need to decentralize. And that is why a state like Ogun had started our own health insurance scheme. Because it's so difficult to sit back in Abuja and assume that a national scheme that is not unbundled, that is not decentralized, will cover Nigerians everywhere they live.
Because that's a major concern. And then I hear comments, people coming to say that...
So if you look at Haraya, for instance...
People will say, like the NHIS scheme, they're saying that using the NHIS scheme to fund primary healthcare delivery is fraud in guise. No,
you see, NHIS is just an innovative funding of the system. It's just an insurance scheme. And insurance is about pooling resources and sharing risk. In fact, in countries where social health insurance scheme has been successful, it's been largely devoted to primary care. If you go to Kenya, about 60% or 67% of Kenyans are on their social health insurance scheme. You go to Rwanda. These are countries with better health indices. So the whole essence of insurance is to pool resources, just like in your car insurance or housing insurance, and make sure that risks are commonly shared. And so if you pool resources, you're actually going to be managing those who need the healthcare delivery most. And these are people whose basic package of care don't cost much. Okay? And so there's only fraudulent because the expectation that government alone can fund health has not worked anywhere in the world. And it's not going to work in Nigeria. And so beyond the fact that government will be contributing to a pool of funds, there will also be contribution from people who have the capacity to contribute. And when let us assume that 80 million Nigerians are able to put some sort of, little contribution into an insurance pool, you have several billions of naira that will support government funding for health. And it will also reduce out-of-pocket expenditure on health. Because ordinarily, when you look at the average cost per capita of delivery health in Nigeria, and what Nigerians pay for some services that don't deliver quality,